I built a mind-controlled wheelchair. What you just saw was built with only about $300, whereas traditional motor imagery costs about $40,000 or even above. So we used a consumer grade EEG headset called the Muse 2, a hacked hoverboard motor with everything being run fully locally on Android. We also submitted this to IEEE and published a full research paper. So how does it actually work? What we do is we use something called electroencephalography or EEG. What is that? That is the measure of electrical impulses our brain produces. We measure those electrical impulses using the Muse 2 EEG headset. It has these electrodes which are silicone and graphite blend and these gold plated electrodes, since both are actually really good at conducting electricity. We originally planned to use motor imagery, that is thinking about moving something like your arm and training a machine learning model based off of that. But we decided not to do that because one, it is really expensive, and two, it takes a lot of time, and three, multiple people cannot use it. So the graph of those looks something like this, which is really faint and really hard to identify, and thus it takes a lot of time to train. How they look like for us is something like this, which is actually really easy to identify. For double blinks it looks like this, for single blinks it looks like this. When you're idle it looks like this, when you look to the left it looks like this, and when you look to the right it looks like this. So you can already see that it's really distinct and really easy to use, and we can actually transfer it from one person to another. So that's another plus. I will be making all of the code public on GitHub, and I'll also put a link for the research paper so you can read it for free. Here is a quick summary of the system. A Python desktop app handles the training. It talks to the Muse 2 over Bluetooth Low Energy and a library called Muse LSL, which streams EEG through something called the lab streaming layer. And once the model is trained, it gets exported to Open Neural Exchange Network and dropped into an Android app, which runs the inference locally on the phone and talks to a ESP32 over classic Bluetooth, which drives the motors. The Python app will work natively out of the box, but the Android app will not, because there are some files which were too big to put onto GitHub. You can download it from Muse's site, or I think I'll put a link for those files in the description. What you see here is the setup tab, so in which the Muse connects over Bluetooth. And it's connected. Here in the data collection tab is where you actually build the dataset. You pick a command, front, left, right, stop, idle, and hit record. You perform the gesture for about 2 seconds and then repeat that about 30 to 100 times per command until you have a usable dataset. Here you can see there's about 300. This is because we trained this on like 5 different people, and and now it's really accurate. And then in the training is where we actually train the model, and you can see 93% accuracy, which is honestly really good. The visualizer, let me put on the headset. This is where you can see the actual brain waves. So when I'll blink twice, even as I'm speaking, you can see them move. And here is the live control tab where we control the wheelchair. This is for testing, but then in actuality we do use the Android app. What you just watched on the waveform gets turned into math in the features.py. Here the raw EEG signals come in at about 256 Hz across all the 4 channels. The app slices them into fixed length windows and runs a Welch's method power spectral density analysis on them, which is just an averaged FFT. Averaging the result tells a lot of variance you'd get from a raw FFT. So that gives the band power for all the 5 bands, delta through gamma across all the 4 channels, and each one is converted into a log scale because the raw power band values have a very huge range, and the log scale just compresses them into something that we can actually process. After which there are 4 more features that are added, which are just the standard
standard deviations of each channel's raw amplitude, which helps us determine whether there is a blink or a jaw clench physically. And then after that, there are 10 more asymmetrical features, which is AF7 minus AF8 and TP9 minus TP10. What that does is that it helps us distinguish left from right. So here is the actual schematic representation of the feature vector. Here are all the 20 logarithmic band powers, which on top of which we add the temporal amplitudes, so the standard deviations, and then we calculate the differences in them, and that creates our 34 feature vector. So this is the model.py, where all of the collected data gets converted into a sklearn model with the default settings and no deep learning, which makes sense because 34 features and 5 classes don't really need a neural net. The random forest also trains very fast and without a GPU. And then in the export model.py is where the sklearn model gets converted to a open neural network exchange model, which we can actually run on Android. Now this is the same model running on Android. Since the raw model output isn't good enough to be sent straight to the motor, we use the technique of confidence gating to prevent false classifications. Each class gets its own threshold. Front needs about 0.75 confidence, left and right need 0.8, stop needs a 0.7, and idle is always accepted because you want the system defaulting to do nothing when it's unsure. And then on top of that, a prediction has to be held for 2 consecutive frames before it fires. As you can see the app here, thinking is the raw unstable prediction and active is what's left after the filtering. Now this is the move.ino. This is the code that's actually being run on the ESP32. Once a command clears the filtering from the Android app, the app sends one ASCII character over classic Bluetooth. The ESP32 listens on the second serial port UART2. Once a character is received, the function calls out and the motor is moved. There is also a watchdog, so if no signal from the phone is detected for a set period of time, the motor is automatically cut, and if the Bluetooth link drops mid-motion, the wheelchair stops. We trained the model on 5 people and got a subject-specific accuracy of about 92.2%, and then when we tested that data against a person on which the model wasn't trained on, we got an accuracy of about 86%, after which the subjects were made to do a 45-meter obstacle course in which there were 8 90-degree turns in both left and right directions and 2 static obstacles to be detected. One seen and one unseen participant was made to do the obstacle course, in which the unseen participant completed it successfully in 100 seconds and the seen participant in 120 seconds. Another thing is that all the commands have to pass through stop first. So a misclassification mid-motion literally cannot reach the motors, and the system isn't listening for a new direction until stop has been confirmed. Then we use ultrasonic sensors to auto stop if something is being detected within 25 centimeters of the wheelchair, and we have also implemented a panic stop gesture and a manual joystick override that cuts the AI from the loop. I am Birthariya, and if anybody would like to contact me, they can use the mail ID that's there in the research paper. And also special thanks to my co-authors Jalaluddin, Akbar and Nair.
They helped split the costs and didn't do anything.
And also to Dr. Yilmaz from Gust University. Without him, this really wouldn't be possible. And thank you for watching.